Okay, my outstanding friends, Roger once again, and we are looking at some of Brian Forrester's work here. I believe this is in Australia, and he's looking at these glyphs, which someone uncovered, and they're trying to decide, are they real and what do they mean and so forth. Now, before we go into looking at it and how they made these glyphs and when and so forth, I want you to look at something here. You see these little striations in this rock? This has nothing to do with these glyphs. These glyphs are different. The striations in the rock have something to do with what we call biology, and this is what you call an abrupt transition. What I want you to look at is the mossy little stuff here, moss and lichen, how dense it is right here. And then it starts to go into this red matter. And the fibers, of course, and the mineralization. You see this? Very important to understand, the mineralization. All right, what you were looking at Brian Forrester's spot there is they were carving into this stuff. And right on the right was the abrupt transition where all that bloody green and black and all that stuff was in there, the bloody spot. Then comes the abrupt transition, and then it's muscle from there over, and that's where they carved into, because it's just nothing but red fleshy muscle. And this is a mud fossil, and they were too. They are the bodies of the gods. You see this? This is what abrupt transitions do. The mossy green moss grows where there's red blood, and this grows where there's vein blood, which is the black blood. And I mean, you can see it's an abrupt transition. Now, this is the kind of stuff they were carving into. It's just what these creatures were, absolutely enormous. The earth was flooded exactly like the ancient texts say, and they drowned, and somebody carved them up, and they had machines here doing it. Now, remember I said, remember the mineralization, those white little chunks? Those are embedded in tendons and muscles and so forth as they make their transition to the real fleshy area, which they cut as slabs and put them on the walls to make walls. That was a machine. You see the width of the tire tracks from here to way over here? That machine was that wide. And these tires apparently were either there to drive and then this set into wet, swampy areas so they can run on these tank treads, or these were stabilizers so that it couldn't move back and forth this way. They sunk in to stabilize it. Because I can see them. You see how they're waving in and out of here? And I would think that that might have something to do with digging over here. I don't know. But they may not just be tire tracks. They may have been stabilizers, because I think there was one up here, so it wouldn't come backwards either. But they just sort of sunk them in, locked them in position, and then just started digging them up and making walls. So they had equipment here. I don't care what anybody says. That goes back 3,500 years ago. If you look up Velikovsky, he recorded everything from every place in the history of the world. Every culture had the same story. Almost identical, how the earth was wrenched and almost just totally destroyed by the planet Venus, which at that time was a comet. It had just erupted into our solar system. It was a fiery comet that rivaled the sun, and you could see it during the day. It was so bright, and it came so close to Earth that the magnetic interaction between the atmospheres caused the earth literally to almost combust, waters to boil, everything. You read Velikovsky, it's very, very, very compelling. And he was the guy that did the research. He was destroyed. You probably never heard his name. Velikovsky. Emmanuel Velikovsky. Read him up. And there's a guy, I think his name is Greg J., that has done a bunch of videos, narrating all the stories that he told. And they weren't stories. They were documented histories throughout the world of every culture that talked of this event. It's just what it was. And they were giants all over the earth. They drowned, and that was the case closed for them, of that size giants. And there was other giants still here after that. They were very, very big, because they're still right on the top of the earth. I got them right in my backyard. I was DNA tested and certified. I'll show you that one, and I'm going to leave it at that. And don't forget, that's where I say the abrupt transition was, and it moves out this way. You got some mineralization, and then these carvings. I don't know who did that. I don't know what the purpose was behind it. My point is that all this stuff has a common origin, which was the flood. It's all biological. It was all soft when they did this. There was no gigantic carving that they sat all day long and carved little stones. They just made them out of, a lot of it they made out of actually ground up body parts, which these are body parts. They ground them up. I have the evidence to support that too. So I am not talking with just theories and, oh, I wonder what they did this for and how they did that, and then I come up with a theory, and then after that everybody say, oh, well, that's just the way it was. No, I show the evidence, then let's discuss it. But discussion, she's a no happen. Why? Why no discussion? And Brian's the one asking all these questions and everything. I'd love to talk to that. Somebody from his crew, you know, or him specifically. I have contacted back and forth with Brian a little bit, but I can tell that there's no interest in my stuff whatsoever, which is, he's just going to walk around in circles. You know, and I'm going to just keep commenting, Brian. I don't mean to bother you, my friend, and I like you. I think you're a wonderful guy and you're asking all the right questions, but until you can engage in a conversation that I can present evidence to support my side, well, as far as I'm concerned, you're just doing circles, buddy. But I understand how difficult this is for the average person to contemplate, and then it becomes a little bit of an issue because you're going to be assaulted. There's no question about that. You know, you're going to have to weather the storm, but you're going to weather the storm, come out the other side with honesty, not just a bunch of nonsense. Now, I had my stuff CAT scanned, DNA tested, anatomist, chemistry, the whole 9 yards. I know Brian's doing the same sort of thing, but I'll show you what I'm doing my work on. He's taking, you know, these elongated skulls and so forth. Yeah, that's very interesting, but I have giants, and I mean giants. And this was done 5-6 years ago. And these were the 3 things I had tested. 2 of them I'll show you that were the giants. And they had excellent quality DNA. I took it right out of the arterial blood supplies. Excellent quality DNA sequences was obtained. And here's the Homo sapien mitochondrial D loop and cytochrome B gene. And this is a very, very good test. And this was basic, I believe, was the first ancient DNA test done on ancient DNA. At that time, they said, "Oh, you can't do this." Well, yes, you can. And I can get literally blood to be tested. So don't tell me you can't test these ancient things for DNA. You can't test it for carbon dating because carbon does not fix. It continues to do what they call nucleophilic substitution. It goes, it comes and goes. Substitution. It comes and goes. It never it fixes. So they're basing all of that evidence on something totally wrong to begin with. All right, this is a fingertip, and it's DNA tested and certified. The fingerprints are still perfect. There's the fingernail. There's a little bumper pad that goes on the back of every bone that nubs up against another bone. It's like a little rocker pad. And the blood supply is coming in. There's a fingernail, and it's almost 3 feet long. I think it's 30 inches, something like that. And here's the fingerprints. There's the fingerprints, the same as yours. Only my finger is the same width as one ridge, one of the fingerprint ridges like on your finger, my whole finger. And exactly like this. And that stuff just cracks right off just like this. It peels right off. Wait till you see the hand I have. This was from the real biggest one I have. Now this, like I say, the fingertip is 30 inches long, so let's say. Now, here's the one, where is it? Here it is. This is the one that is the hand, and I have all kinds of stuff in this. I have knuckles and fingers and other stuff. This is it's a left hand, and if you stick your hand out and hold it flat out, you'll have one of these right here, which is a little tendon. All right, this is the bumper pad that goes around your hand. Identical. There's no. You hold your hand out and do just what I said. Go like that, and there it is. Now, this is where the thumb side goes. And these were the fingerprints going up, fingers going up this way. And I found a bunch of them after this. Now, this was, close to 10 years ago when I took this picture. And this stuff, it's just been laying out there. I don't know what the condition of it is now. Nobody's interested. This is the grip skin on that one. Remember how I showed you the grip skin, the fingerprint skin? It peels right off because it's an extremely heavy-duty skin. That is DNA tested. I CAT scan. I have the fingerprints, fingers CAT scanned. Anatomist, chemistry. It is what it is. And this, the redness is from clay, red clay, which red is ferrous oxides, and the ferrous oxide is from the blood. This is all from fleshy tissue that has what's called nucleophilic substitution. It was in muddy, watery conditions, and it invades it. And that's why the same thing with carbon dating. It's never going to be right, because everything gets invaded. That's why they don't look exactly like they looked when they were alive, because they're being invaded. They're continuously being more and more stabilized. That's what nucleophilic substitution is all about, and that's what the whole process of mud fossils is. And here's my goose. I call him Caesar. Caesar Augustus. And there's his feathers. And they all died in the flood. They have one flat side laying like this. And I have a ton of these things. I mean, I have a ton of this stuff. There's a rock that is a bone. That's the head of a bone. And it's turned into mud. It looks like a rock. It looks like mud. Yes, absolutely. But that's because it's been nucleophilically substituted. All right, so until people start looking at and thinking and allowing their mind to probe these different areas that are so remote from the way the average mind thinks and so pushed against by academia, they will flog you for talking like this. They will destroy your life if you go into academia and protest and say, oh, wait a minute, professor, what about this? You just failed, my son. You just wasted your money by paying us, and you failed because you refuse to say what we told you to say. It doesn't matter if we were right or not. You refuse to do. So you are our slave. And now you have gone against us, so we're going to destroy your life. Academia has become just nothing but a slave master society. And they tell you what to say, and if you don't say what they tell you what to say, they ruin you. And if you don't go to pay them to get a piece of paper to say that you're smart, you're ruined from the beginning. You're just going to be working in the fields. You're going to have to make your own way. And I agree with that. I made my own way because I couldn't live with that system. So you live it if you want, but I'm done walking in circles. And I can see that nobody else is. They just don't care. You know, I could not live my life like that. If you just can't stand up for yourself, you stand for nothing.